Hi, everyone. Today I'm back and I'd like to talk about weaving. Weaving is a tradition all over the world and used to make baskets and rugs and shawls and all kinds of things, but a lot of artists use it as well in their work. So I brought you some examples of a little bit of different kind of weaving. This is a local Bay Area artist, Thomas Nakata, and he does weaving with found photographs. He grew up in Hawaii and learned traditional weaving there, and then traveled around the world and learned other types. In this piece, he combined different patterns and types of weaving from around the world with the intention of presenting sort of a united front, uniting all the different traditions from around the world and symbolically uniting the people and cultures. Like the previous piece, this was a piece featured in the De Young Open in San Francisco, and this is a weaving of two different paintings. So the artist, Abel Manolo, painted two different paintings of these three women artists. If you look here, you can see portraits of Yayoi Kusama, Frida Kahlo, and Georgia O'Keeffe, three famous women artists. And he painted a painting where all three of them are looking forward, and then another one where all three of them are in profile. And then he wove them together to make this piece, which is actually a weaving. It's a really neat piece to see in person. And it's called Icons Reimagined. This is by Ceci Rango, a Colombian artist. And this piece is called Basur Oro. And in Spanish, basura means trash, and oro means gold. So I'm guessing this is golden trash or trash gold. And what she's done is woven aluminum cans. She's cut spirals of these aluminum cans. You can see them dangling from the end and woven them together. And I would definitely do this carefully because if you ever cut an aluminum can, they're very sharp. But she's made this beautiful braid and out of woven metal. So normally weavings are done out of fibers, textiles like yarn and wool and threads and things like that. So this is a non-traditional material. And here's that picture of the artist with another woven metal piece. You can see she's wearing gloves to protect her hands there. This is Aymar Kobukati, and he grew up in Peru and the United States. And his heritage was of the Aymara people in Peru, and his grandmother in Peru taught him the traditional weaving there. And it's done on a big loom, like you see here on the left, except this is a loom made out of found materials, pellets, and things. But it's made in the traditional way. And what he weaves is plastic bags. He noticed in Peru he was seeing a lot of plastic bags floating around in the wind, and the trash just lying around was mostly plastic bags. And this is a problem around the world. And he wanted to draw insight and attention to it, make people aware of this problem, and also to make something beautiful out of this trash. So he started weaving out of these, and he gets a lot of people involved to help him. And I found a little movie that explains it I'd like you to see.
My name is Aymar Kopakadi. I'm 38 years old. I work with recycled materials like plastic in my art. We went to a moving store to get the pallets that we changed into the heddles.
Okay, so I imagined you here all night building a loom. I had no idea what this was going to look like. This is really cool.
We went to a hardware store because sometimes we need real heavy-duty deal things like pulleys that you can't easily find in the trash. And then we went to the local supermarket to get all of their 1 day's worth of shrink wrap, with which we made the whole loom. And that was just 1 day's worth of their shrink wrap. Every day, that much shrink wrap comes to Santa Fe for one store. And that's kind of the larger picture is like the worst thing people can do is assume that big companies have taken care of this for them, and therefore we don't have to do our part. We all have to do our part. The city here in Santa Fe or in other places outlawing a plastic bag doesn't mean, oh, it's dealt with and I don't need to think about this. There's so many things where you could get lulled into a sense of reassuredness that it's all being dealt with, but then you've been ployed and you've been lured into this mass marketing thing where you just mindlessly continue consuming. And they don't want you to hear like, don't buy. I'm not saying don't buy. Go buy stuff. Just bring your own bag. Bring your own coffee mug. Refill things. Some of the spiritual lessons of my ancestors in Peru go that some of our essence, our spiritual essence, is on everything we've touched along the way in life. So if you followed that through to its logical conclusion, how many to-go cups have passed through your hands this year, 12 months? How many straws? And on and on and on. So it would take up the back of your car's worth. If it could all just fall on you right now by accident, everything you touched this year and threw in the trash. You know, how much of that should have gone into recycling instead of the trash, and now it's in the landfill instead of being turned into your next plastic cup. So it's an obsession, and it's not always comfortable, but it's more than a hobby, and it's good for people to think that way. It's important, and if more people thought that way, I wouldn't have to be so obsessed. Weaving because it's the closest way I had from my tradition in the Andes Mountains. It's the closest tradition I had with which to address the plastic. So it's the tool I chose. I've also done experiments where it's visual art with the plastic. So it's not just weaving, but weaving is the most obvious spot where I'm uniting past and present and future. One of the things that the weaving loom made out of recycled materials does, or one of the visions it holds, is that it can trap pieces of plastic. It's a place to put handfuls of plastic refuse that would be blowing in the breeze, so if in the right moment a plastic bag blew in with the wind, it would get trapped in the loom and stuck in the weaving, and then it would be in the museum again. So it's a better place for it, and my work kind of does that. It looks for ways to encase or encapsulate the plastic.
This is a choya for a new leader that Aymar Kopacati made, and it's 10 feet tall and 3.5 feet wide. It's hanging in a museum in this picture, and this is made of knitted plastic trash bags. So they're not woven on the loom that you saw, but they're actually knitted with these giant knitting needles. But I think that's pretty cool. And it's a hat, a traditional hat in Peru that you see a lot. So this is made with plastic bags and caution tape and fabric litter collected from around Lake Titicaca in Peru. So he's drawing attention to this problem of plastic trash and reuse, and what do we do with all of that? This artist is Ellen Achui, and he was born in Ghana and works in Nigeria in Africa. And he makes sewn and woven tapestries out of found objects, things that he finds, litter that's common around where his studio is and around where he lives in Nigeria. And these are made of bottle tops, metal bottle tops, and they're all sewn and woven together. You can see the detailed picture here on the lower right, and they make these enormous tapestries and weavings that are sculptures, and they're hung suspended from the ceiling or on the wall. And you can see they're almost like a sculpture, but they're very pliable. You can move them easily. They flow. And sometimes the De Young in San Francisco has these on exhibit. They have a couple of them that I've seen there over the years, and they're really, really interesting to see up close. Like here, it looks like it's fabric, right? But it's all metal. So we've seen several artists that work with weaving, but using non-traditional materials. And today I'd like to show you how to do some paper weaving, but you can also add whatever materials you would like. If you'd like to add plastic bags or string or fibers, sticks, whatever you want. I'll show you some examples and how to do it. So this is just a simple weaving of a piece of paper and magazine strips. And it's done in a sort of a zigzag pattern. Normally, straight up weaving would be a checkerboard pattern like this. And this is just two different magazine pictures woven together, much like the two different paintings that were woven together that we looked at. And this is a weaving done with different materials. We have some fur, a pipe cleaner, cardboard, some paper, magazine, plastic bag. There's a photograph in here, newspaper, all different kinds of paper. So that's just a little example of all the different things you can add to your weaving. So now let me show you how to do it. For the basics, you start out with 2 sheets of paper. Now this one, I've drawn a line across and lines down. And what you're going to do is cut that. And the fold is down here. This part is on the non-folded. So you cut it and it ends up like this. You do not cut this part here. If you cut that, it'll fall apart. So you don't want to do that. So you just cut all the lines. And with your other piece of paper, same size as this, you're going to cut strips across like these. And then we weave them. So you start, it's just an over, under, over, under, over, under. So if we take a strip here, you want to do the opposite of whatever's the line before. So this line before, you see the yellow. So this time we want the black on top. So we just do over, under, all the way across. And so you get this checkerboard pattern. And you just keep doing that all the way across. And then keep alternating all the way down. Now, something interesting you can do, like the one I had that wasn't a checkerboard, you take your paper and you cut it not in straight lines, but in zigzags all the way down. Remember, you have to leave this piece here, otherwise it'll fall apart. And then when you weave it, you get not a checkerboard, but kind of a non-traditional pattern versus this straight checkerboard. Now, what I would like to see you do is something interesting. Use some other materials. You can try some straight up paper ones, but then I want you to try something like this, where look around, see what you can find. See what you can find outside, inside. You can use old photographs, scraps of wrapping paper, tissue paper, newspapers. See how many different colored plastic bags you can find. What else? Fabric, anything, just different pieces of paper. One magazine, you could have so many different patterns. Or you could draw two different pictures and weave them together. Or take some old artwork, cut that into strips and weave it up. So that's what I'd like to see. I can't wait to see what you make.